Greetings, Darklings, from across the interwebs. It is once again I, the Duchess, Precious Ken, here in my Twin Tribes t-shirt today because we're going to be talking Texas. And you can't talk Texas goth without talking Twin Tribes. I'm really excited today. We have a guest that is a dear friend. Well, we have a couple guests that I will introduce in a moment. I did, before we get started, want to give one quick shout on this because, again, we're talking Texas. Dread Risks dropped a new album last night. I picked it up on vinyl immediately. It is fire. You guys need to go check this out. It's absolutely just mean, harsh, crushing EBM industrial mixed with death rock and just those growling, like furious vocals. Absolutely 10 out of 10, love it, must check out. So the reason we're here and what we wanted to talk about is I have my dear friend, DJ Sunil, as well as DJ V, that are both a part of KOOP radio, in addition to Sunil doing his Sunil Sunday 7 DJ show. And I want to talk a little bit about radio and what it still is in 2022 and how that's different from the online DJ streams and how that matters. I'm really excited to have a conversation about this and discuss a big event that they have coming up on Saturday this month. So welcome, gentlemen. How are you doing?
We are doing all right. I guess we're a bit warm right now. It's like we're in the 60s down here in Texas.
Well, that's just vogue to throw that at
That's for today. That's for today.
Again, we got snow again last night, and the entire state is pretty much an ice rink right now.
Yeah, I saw Anya from Ayatoya's updates from the road. Yeah. They got stopped on the highway for 3 hours in a snowstorm and accidents and whatever.
To stop to pee all the time at the side of the road. I saw that on her Facebook post.
We love you, Anya.
Oh, she is absolutely the best. Here, we'll give that shout out too. That little mini tour is happening right now. I know she's playing with Sapira V and some others. And if you've never seen Ayatoya Anya live, do yourself a favor. It is a game-changing experience. The fact that she goes up there, does everything by herself and just unleashes a unbridled raw energy that will blow your face off. It's
one woman industrial army.
Exactly.
So DJ V actually got to see her on the Big Face tour. I was out of town, so I missed their Austin date. But he was telling me all about it. And they ended up setting her up on the floor at Elysium because the stage was covered in pig face stuff.
Right. You know, it's funny. She actually, on her birthday, opened for Amaranth in Kalamazoo here right before they left on that Pigface tour. And she hadn't announced it yet that she was opening for Pigface.
Nice.
So, like, she announced that from the road the day after we played the show. I'm like, you couldn't have thrown a bone to me so I could use that to promote that you're actually playing with Pig. But no, okay. And it was so funny because I'd never seen her play, and we kind of added her on last minute because we had a cancellation, and she just came out to play. So she opened for us, got done playing this set. People are still trickling in, and I'm just sitting there jaw dropped, like, I have to go try and sing after that. Nope, I just quit music. I give up. I don't want to play after having, to see that. And then now I need to go up there. Dang. But no, we had a blast, and Lorelei Dreaming played with us too that day.
Was that when you recorded the I Fall With Your Knife?
Yeah, we did the Peter Murphy cover, and they both came on stage and sang with me, and we recorded the footage for the video.
Nice.
And had them then on the recording. So that was
wow.
All right. Well, listen, first off, why don't you both go one at a time? We'll go Sunil and then Joe, and just give me a brief introduction of kind of how you got into the scene and what are the things that you do, both the radio and your online show.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. I'm DJ Ashura Sunil. I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Got into music back in the late 80s when I was in high school. A friend of mine introduced me to pretty much the Sisters of Mercy and Skinny Puppy at about the same time.
That'll do it.
And that was it, pretty much, for me. And then went away to school, got my first radio show. I actually went and sat in with a buddy of mine who had a radio show. And it's like, I'm like, can I come hang out? He's like, sure. Next thing we know, it's our show. And
Who was your buddy?
His name is Gary. He went by Toast online. So it ended up becoming, and it was a morning show on Thursday mornings we were on from 6 to 10 a.m. And they ended up the next month after I was just like hanging out, the schedule came out and it was the Sunny and Toast show.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, which is great for a morning show. So
did they do a lot of the, they're playing goth music and here's Andrew Eldridge.
We actually did an industrial hour from 8 to 9 a.m. to help people wake up.
Oh, wow.
That was our excuse. Yeah.
So you just, start out angry, sad, and hating life, and then just roll that into the rest of your day. I love it.
Right. Pretty much. And that was about the time that Britpop started happening as well. So we did like an hour of industrial and an hour of Britpop. And then the rest of it was like news and kind of stuff. Yeah. Then I moved around. I moved to DC, got a show at the college I was at there, started DJing at Catacomb with DJ Kangle.
Yeah.
And company. And then moved to San Diego, took a break for a while. Moved to Austin in 2005. And in 2010, I joined Co-op Radio.
Nice.
And it was funny the way that DJV and I met, because I signed up to be a volunteer. So Co-op Radio is a nonprofit community station. We are all volunteers, with the exception of less than a handful of paid staff members to actually manage. And DJV, please jump in if I'm forgetting anything.
No, keep going. You're doing great.
So I signed up to volunteer, and on the sign-up sheet, it said, what kind of show would you like to do? And I said, well, I'd like to do a goth industrial show. And they're like, well, we actually have this show. And DJV reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to come and apprentice? We have this whole program. We actually train people on how to make radio at Co-op. And
because is it tied to a university?
No,
it's nonprofit, the Texas Communications or Texas Educational
Broadcasting
Cooperative.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, we're one of 3 cooperative radio stations
in the world.
There's
1 or 2 in Canada and 1 here in the United States, but the governance is cooperatively governed. So we're not, we have to work for our shows, right?
Yeah.
We have to put in volunteer hours in order to get rewarded for doing our programs.
Right. So so DJV reached out to me and said, hey, can you start on this day? And I'm like, well, actually I have a DJ gig at Elysium down here in Austin. And so I can't make it that week, but I could come the week after. But would you like to come out? I could put you on the guest list and we can meet. And he's like, sure.
Very cool.
Next thing I know, this guy shows up at the DJ booth. He's like, hi.
On the spot interview. Got to make sure and vet him for.
I love the meet cute.
It was the meet cute.
Good part to hear.
Yeah. And so he basically got my demo that night.
Yeah. Hired.
So, Joe, you tell me too, just give me a little of the bona fides, and what you do and how you got into this.
Sure. I'm DJV. I'm DJ Asura Sunil's partner at Darkest Before Dawn. I was born in Houston, Texas, but didn't get into goth and industrial until
and other related genres.
Thank you. Until I was in Colorado in the late 80s. That's when I probably hit it. I would say high school was about the time. I was in theater. There's a bunch of dorks in theater, a bunch of outcasts and people that don't fit in theater. And I
was one of those dorks. I know those dorks.
Yeah. I was back of the house. I didn't do any front of the house. I didn't do any acting, all the back of the house stuff. But the lighting technician handed me this tape that he made. He's like, you got to check this band out. It's called The Sisters of Mercy. And he handed me this tape, and it was a bunch of 12-inch singles that he had thrown together. And I was just hooked from then on. Again, I was a bit of an outcast, the nerdy kid that hung out with the theater geeks, and didn't quite fit into a real, friend group. But the goth kids were super nice and super inviting, and didn't care that I didn't have to already be dressed in black and wearing makeup and things like that. They were just cool people, and didn't care what you were, and as long as you were nice to them, they were nice to you, and that's what I liked. I liked that they were very welcoming and inviting. And boy, after that, I explored a lot of new music and just was really hooked after that. My radio experience, I have none. I have no radio experience before joining Co-op Radio, but other than to say that I listened to the radio my entire life growing up. It was always on. My dad loved the radio. He loved doo-wop, and he loved the oldies station.
Yeah.
And he had this record collection. I can't remember who put it out, but it was called Cruisin'. And it was this record set that went from like the 1950s through the 1960s, and they put out a new edition every year. And it was just the music of that particular year, but it was also hosted by DJs, like regional DJs from across the country. And either they took actual footage of DJs or actual recording of DJs, or they had the DJ come in the booth and recreate a show. But listening to the variety of DJs from across the country and just knowing that sounds fun, and that's definitely something I want to do. So when I discovered Co-op Radio, that was pretty much my goal, was to have my own radio show. I started out doing a jazz program on Co-op because they didn't have a jazz program, and I thought putting a goth show out would be a stretch.
Foot in the door.
Wanted to get foot in the door. I wanted to get a jazz, and I'm a huge fan of jazz too. So I got that show going. I ran that show for 10 years, and about 3 years into that show, I started the Darkest Before Dawn, 2009, and then did that for a year. And it really just focused on the classic stuff because I kind of lost touch with the music about 1992 or so. But when Sunil came along, oh my gosh, just really rounded out the show.
Put the fire back to you.
Oh my gosh, and he's just made it so much better.
He does have that energy.
Yeah, well, yeah. We do have that great energy that goes off between us too. But yeah, I mean, just bringing the music that I didn't know about and rounding out the entire sound of the show was the best thing that happens. DJ Sunil,
kind of like Sunil, did you, like with Elysium, do club DJing and stuff like that too, in addition to the radio station, or were you always more focused on the radio?
More focused on the radio. I'm not a live DJ. I don't have a rig. I could never afford 2 turntables and a mixing board. I never got a DJ controller. Yeah, yet probably.
Yeah. I mean, now you don't even need the 2 turntables to pull it off. You know.
Right. Yeah. So something about that I just missed. I'm not really a turntablist. He's the DJ. I'm the rapper in this duo. So.
Like DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. I like that.
Exactly like that.
Yeah, he's got the dance moves also. So
yeah,
that is key. That's very.
DJ Astro Sunil only knows the Carlton.
All right, so there's a couple different things I want to hit on with you guys before we start talking about the event. That I think you just have a good perspective on this, and you know, I do a lot of band interviews, but not always get a chance to talk to the other really important aspects of the scene, like DJs. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I want to ask about is you guys are in Austin. And to me, I've always been fascinated and loved the Austin scene. Like I'm here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is a 3-college town. Mm-hmm. And I always kind of, you know, I've been to Austin and always say that Kalamazoo is kind of a 1/3 the size Austin, but there's a lot of parallels between, you know, being a college town and just this tiny blue dot in the middle of a giant red wasteland, you know, and kind of the vibe and the flavor there. So can you guys speak a little bit to why is Austin special for the goth industrial scene? Why does that town, for some reason, you know, whether you're talking about Curse, Evil Mothers, and you know, it just tends to bring out some of the great bands that we talk about, you know, around the world.
Well, there's a big creative vibe here in Austin, that's for sure. And it's always been kind of the central location for the counterculture. Mm-hmm. You know, the hippies and the psychedelic movement. The psychedelic movement started here you know, with Rocky Erickson and things like that. So, but it's always been kind of like that counterculture kind of place. But to speak to your point, I don't think that Austin is a huge, you know, goth enclave. It really doesn't support a scene. I think there are a lot of musicians that live here, mm-hmm. And kind of pick up on all that creative energy that we have here. But mostly it's just because they can live here and just be themselves. I think a lot of Austin is a place where, you know, the regular folk mix with, you know, movie stars and rock stars, and we just leave them alone because, you know, it's just kind of like this live and let live kind of vibe that we have going on here.
You know, when I was young, I think probably like 20, 21, I actually met Daniel Ash in Austin, mm-hmm. like out of nowhere. It was like really random. And I was like, what are you doing here? And he said, honestly, I love this city because it's just far enough away from LA. I could get back there if I had to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all, so it's close enough to do that, but also far enough away that I don't deal with kind of LA mindset and BS. And I think that was part of like one of those moments where I fell in love with the idea of Austin as a scene.
Yeah, and say what you want about, Texas now, and there's a lot to say about, the state of Texas
Sure.
now, but the state and Austin itself too just has that real independent spirit, right? And so it's a place where people can go and just kind of blend in and be themselves and not have to worry about other people, knocking down their doors or voyeurism or that whole kind of, like Danielle was talking about, that LA lifestyle of just always on the go and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a lot to do with just the vibe of the city, to be honest. Yeah.
What about you, Sneal? 'Cause, I mean, and again, Adoration Destroyed, and there are just a lot of, I feel like bands and scenes that I know and love that are from Austin or Texas or, do that vibe.
Well, I mean, like a couple of weeks ago, we did an all Eric show. I don't know if you caught that one.
That's
but
easy to do in, industrial.
Well, especially in we did the first half hour. It was all Texas Erics. It was like, so we started Eric Oberto from has a new single.
I just interviewed Eric
right?
Oberto. Great.
So he released that single that was remixed by Eric Gustafson.
Yep.
So that sort of triggered that idea. Then we had Eric from Unit Code Machine, Eric from Dread Risks, Eric from Spank the Nun. We kind of fudged it with Melody Whore because he was Eric Von P is him. So we kind of, we're like, okay, that's an Eric. Right.
Yeah,
and
there's a few more in industrial that I think.
Oh, there's a couple more. There's a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Clack and
right,
not
Null
in
Device,
Austin, but
yeah.
And then what's the other Eric that I'm thinking?
Gottesman.
Gottesman, that's it.
Yeah, Eric Gottesman, who's in every band ever.
Yeah.
But no, it's I mean, Austin it's very, because of its location, I think it's very central. So people can come down from Dallas or come from Houston or San Antonio or even from down from the Valley where like Twin Tribes is and Death Loves Veronica are.
Sure.
It's not, okay, so from the Valley, it's like down by the border, it's like a 4 or 5 hour drive.
Yeah.
But it's still doable. You do it in the day. San Antonio is like a little bit over an hour. Dallas and Houston are 3 to 4, depending on traffic.
Yeah.
So we're easy to get to, and now we have an actual international airport, so people can fly in.
Are you trying to send me a hint that I should go do that?
Well, I've been trying to get you down here forever.
It's true. And then COVID happened, but I mean, I do need.
But now that with the album coming out, maybe we can get you down here. That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
Where was I going with that? I don't even know where I was going. Oh, but yeah. So the scene here is what it is. I mean, we've been lucky that bands get to come. Let me try that again. The bands that we get to see come through Austin are awesome. I mean, because of the reputation of places like Elysium and the Mohawk downtown, we've had the opportunities to interview. We interviewed VNV Nation the day before Hurricane twice. The first time was the day before, was when Hurricane Harvey was rolling in. We were sitting on the back patio at Elysium watching the clouds roll through.
Yeah.
We've had the opportunity to interview Daniel Ash as well and David J.
Yeah.
We interviewed. The best was, I think, Paul Barker. We interviewed Paul Barker when he was on tour with Ogre. He called in and we're chatting with him, and then he's like, "Hey, are you guys at Co-op Radio?" We're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, because I punched in the number you gave me into my phone, and it came up as Co-op Radio."
He already had it in his contacts. He had been a member when Revco and Ministry and all them had the Revco world outside of Austin here, and had been a member from back in the day.
Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, and then just being able to get people to come in and hang out with us. Assemblage 23 came into the studio one time. We've had The Rain Within come in. We've had Curse Mackie Rona from Sign has been on. I think it's probably been on the most out of everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're famously in her video.
Yeah.
Yes. Very handsomely as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makeup and hair by Rona herself.
And that's the picture I think I used when I put you on the Sounds and Shadows hottest DJs list.
It's only because you didn't have a picture of me.
Yeah.
All right, I want to change gears a little bit because, like I said, I mean, I'm trying to keep this on point, but there's a lot I want to talk about. So I think also you guys, one of the things now is the DJ gig, whether you're talking about clubs or rather on the radio, it's 2022. Things have really changed, in particular in the last 3 or 4 years with the pandemic and everything happening, where Twitch streams and online stream has become such a big part of the game. So, and you do both, Sneal. You didn't mention this when you were giving your bonafide, but one of my favorite DJ streams is your Sneal's Sunday 7. Which is always great and highlights new music that people can look into. And that's such an important part of the DJ scene, is that there's so much out there right now. There's an ocean. As a music review writer, I can tell you, hitting you in the face like a fire hose all the time, where how do you even find anything when there's just so much? And that's why we need DJs to help us sift through the stacks.
Right.
And so in 2022, what would you say is the big changes from the technology and how this is with streaming, and B, what does radio still play as a part, and why is that still so important and valuable to bands in 2022 at a time when maybe radio doesn't have the same focus or maybe cachet that it did in the 90s?
So Neil, you take A and I'll take B.
Okay, which one was A? A
is
the streaming
technology
one?
And
the technology.
Streaming and how that's changed for you as a DJ, how you play.
Well, I mean, so radio, when I started in radio, it was only terrestrial. It was only over the air. When I got to DC, it was, the station did like an on-campus stream, sort of like on the on-campus cable station or whatever. They do at most colleges.
Like I said, we're college town. We got one of those too. Katie has done stuff with them a lot. Our local.
Nice. But the streaming thing didn't really start. I mean, so people eventually started figuring out how to like record DJ sets and post them online. That's when you had like the advent of things like Mixcloud and HearThis.at
and all those,
right? All these and sound, SoundCloud and like actually I think SoundCloud was probably one of the first ones to actually allow people to do that. But like at that point, that's when I started discovering like DJ mixes. Like, and so when I started doing that stuff, I had been recording DJ sets at Elysium, like when I was doing live stuff, and just started uploading those. So if you go to my Mixcloud channel and scroll all the way back to the beginning, you'll find some of those early DJ sets.
Nice.
You have to scroll back through 180 of my mix shows first, but you'll get there eventually. But then pandemic hits. So I mean, I started doing that before the pandemic hit, and it was great because like people like Scott Durand and Blair from Synthentral, they were doing that before I started doing it, and and they're both friends of mine, actually friends of ours. And we and I was like, hey, I could do this.
Sure.
And so I started, and I was like, well, I need to do something. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to spend 2 hours every day or every week, 2 to 3 hours putting together a show, like a full, 1.5 hour to 2 hour set. So I was like, you know what? And I was chatting with my wife, and she's like, I can do it once a week, and let's limit it. She's like, how about like 6 or 7 songs? I'm like, hey, I could do a Sunday 7.
Yeah.
That rolls off the tongue. And
I love the focus of that. That's one of the things I always really like about your show, that's just it. Instead of doing a 2-hour set where maybe you get long, you post links and tags to all 7 bands, and it really feels like a highlight. I've had you premiere stuff for Amaranth and things like that. And that's what I love about that show so much, is that it's actually focused. So if you make it into the Sunday 7, it does. It feels like a big deal. It feels like there could have been 100 things that came out this week, but you were one of the 7, and that's a big deal.
And then that's the thing though, is like now, like since I've started doing that show, and since I started doing the radio, and since I started doing that mix show, I've been exposed to more bands, and the bands know who I am now and have been like reaching out.
Yeah.
and saying, hey, and through groups like Sounds and Shadows. So it's like people are like, oh, hey, you have a show. Would you be interested in listening to our music? I'm like, I'm always interested in listening to new music and sharing it with DJV, because, you know, how else are we going to learn about what's out there?
Exactly.
And
you do a lot of premieres for me. I like I said, I know you've done that
again,
for us,
I am super privileged when that happens.
You do a ton of, this is the first place that you can hear this. And again, that's to me a big part of the DJ thing, is you're getting a chance to share for the first time, and people are testing the waters with a new single with you.
Like I actually had a sneak peek of the new Crying Vessel last week.
Yeah, Slade sent that over to me.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't realize he sent it over. He's like, hey, take a listen. And I was like, wow. It's like, would I be able to play this publicly? He's like, yeah, sure, go for it. I'm like, sweet.
I don't know how he's still finding time, because every time I see him or he calls me or I hear he's got a daughter over his shoulder,
little baby,
to still like program on it.
But then things started shutting down. DJ started moving online, getting back to the technology and the streaming, and it was great. I mean, I've it was just a bonus for everybody, because you got to see DJs around the world that you would never get a chance to see, from like everywhere from the east to like the west coast of North America, like all the way across to the UK to Germany, Australia. There's all these like DJs all over that are now on Twitch, and you get to see their DJ sets. But they've also turned them into shows of sorts. Cause like when I'm DJing, I just want to play the music. That's why when you listen to our radio show, DJV does most of the talking.
Yeah.
And I just love to play the music, and I don't want to interrupt the music with too many words, but we're doing radio, and we like to try and keep it the way radio's always been. Like we play some songs and we talk about them, or we talk about the bands, or at least tell you what we played.
I love that personally. And I've talked to you about this before, kind of the different styles of it, like Hate Muir or Pat 626, or I absolutely love that bit of flavor and background. To me, I don't feel like that's taken away from the music. I, as a listener, want to get a little extra, because you're a subject matter expert. A little behind the scenes on these bands and are able to share that. And now me as a casual listener gets a chance to absorb some of that inside baseball.
Right. But then, there are people like Kate is a show person. She is an artist. She's a street performer. So
almost like a stand-up comedy bit.
Right. When she and Vernal Trash are up there doing their thing, it's so much fun to watch them, because they have such a great rapport, just like doing their thing and playing around and having fun, which is what we try to do. We're there, and we want to play the music. We want to share the music, and we want to have fun.
Yeah.
First and foremost, we try to keep it fun and lighthearted, and we don't take ourselves seriously. And that's what really, I think, maybe sets us apart from other radio shows dealing with this specific, or other shows dealing with this specific topic, right? I mean, one thing that I'll note is that radio is still available. It's still free to everybody. It's still out there and very easily accessible, no matter where you are. You could build a radio out of three parts, right? And be able to access, all of this great stuff for free. I will say that, the state of radio today, though, is not the same thing as when I discovered radio as a kid, for sure. And you could point back to the media consolidation in the 1990s, the Clinton administration, when the FCC allowed corporations to own, multiple stations in the same market and things like that. And it really just went to homogenize all the music. And you saw little, regional radio stations go away. You saw regional sounds kind of go away. Like, that was one of the best parts about, traveling the country, is go to Louisiana and turn on the radio and hear something completely different than you heard in Houston, or something completely different than you're hearing in Tulsa or Denver or New Mexico
Kalamazoo or wherever. Yeah.
You know, I mean, just like just different regions. Like East Texas is two completely different music than you're going to hear from West Texas, but that's not the case anymore. They wanted to make it to where no matter where you went, you can find something familiar, and then that familiar is the same 100 bands, same. Right. 40 songs. And even if you go to, you know, the classic rock station, they're playing the same 40 songs. The oldies station isn't even an oldies station anymore. You know, top 40, well, that format hasn't changed. But
I like what you're saying there. The regional aspect is that's just it. Take a show like Sunil's, even when you're talking online or whether you're talking radio. Mm-hmm. You're gonna Stabbing Westward has a new signal that came out, and everybody's gonna play that, and you're gonna play it too. So that might be one of them. But then you also put on Dread Wrists or Adoration to or something that's regional to you, and you're getting that. So if you're a listener, because all of the radio now, even though it's is usually online as well as a live radio, so you can get the chance. You're sitting there in Berlin to hear what the hot single of the day is, but then also what is the hot single in Texas in particular.
Right. And that's kind of what we're trying to do is bring that regional kind of sound back. That's really Co-op radio in general is trying to do that. Like we're trying to say, this is the sound of Austin. This is what Austin radio sounds like. And it's going to be completely different. You know, if you go somewhere else, you're not going to hear what it is that we're playing. And I think anymore, you're really not going to get that. So that's what we're trying to do. Specifically, DJ Sunil and I are trying to do that. We want to, you know, focus on the stuff that's regional and the stuff that's local. The mission of our radio.
When you do that too, you know, take something like, you guys might have been one of the first people to really spin Twin Tribes. Now everybody in the world, you know, knows Twin Tribes.
And we've had those kids on the show, and there's like two of the nicest guys. I mean, and super great. And we want to make sure that people get that information. And I think, you know, again, you can do that online, you can do that with the web stream, but there's so much overhead associated with that, right?
Sure.
You have to have a computer or some sort of streaming device. You have to have internet service. All you need is a radio to listen to the radio. You just plug it in and turn it on, and it's there. It's free to everybody. And it's a lot more accessible. And so what we're trying to do is with this little thing that we love that never, you know, that's like a niche of a niche, right? That most people grow out of when they get out of college. We're still trying to focus on that we're still trying to say, this is what we like and we're passionate about it. And oh, by the way, there are still people putting out brand new music. Some of them are your neighbors, and this is what we want to do. We want to share this with you all out there, so you'll know that this is there and it's accessible to you. And if you like it, great. You know, cite your source. You know?
We spent the time picking through 1,000 albums this month to bring you these, you know,
10 songs
that you needed to hear. Exactly. Yeah. Because,
you know, and that's,
people just don't have the time or appetite for that a lot now because it's so much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm always like literally overjoyed when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, thank you for playing that band and introducing me to this band." Like we have a listener who we introduced to Glass Apple Bonsai.
Oh yeah,
and
Daniel.
Yeah, and she's I mean, I've actually known this listener for a while, but I didn't, you know, but just to say hi kind of thing.
Sure.
She was listening to the show. She listens to our show regularly, and she's like, "I love Glass Apple Bonsai. Thank you so much for introducing me." And so I passed that message on to Daniel, and Daniel was like, "Wow, that's great." And next thing you know, she's like a regular in his Twitch stream now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I was like, I popped in there. I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" It's like, "Oh, it's one of my favorite channels now." And so, but like when people say, "Oh yeah, I discovered this band," I think one time we played Noir's cover of The Chauffeur.
Yeah.
Grand song. And somebody called up, and I was just watching DJ V's face when he's taking this call. He's like, "Oh, really?" She's like, what? I don't remember the exact words, but something along the lines of, she's always hated Duran Duran covers until that one.
I mean, it was a great.
Do you remember that call?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. The cover, yeah.
You know, and she's just like, version. I mean, there's so many great versions, particularly of that song out there. But she made it a point. She was listening on the radio, and she made it a point to call us and say, "Hey, that I don't like Duran Duran covers, but that one was pretty awesome." We actually passed that information on to Ethan from Noir, who's actually been on our show a couple of times as well.
He might be up there. He might be up there with Rona as far as number of visits on the program. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you know what, and I can relate to that so much too. One of my favorite things to do every month with Sounds and Shadows is I'll put out reviews, and then I'll look at the end of the month, and one of the statistics it'll show me on my WordPress is how many times they clicked on the Bandcamp link from my review. And there is something that just juices me when I see 15 or 20 people clicked on to maybe buy this album because of something I wrote. And that to me is what it's all about. And so I know 100% what you mean there.
Well, and I think that's what radio can do too, because on a web stream, you can't phone up the DJ. Sometimes you can't text them or send them an instant message because that's already posted and they're gone. I love the radio where you can just pick up the phone and call the DJ. Say, "Hey, I love this song. What are you playing?" Or tell me more about this band, or things like that.
Or even making requests. People call.
I want to hear that. This is what I'm listening to right now, and then that listener gets to feel that it's heard. So that goes to another point I was just about to make. That to me, why, especially the Twitch streams and things like that, but in the way you're saying, radio DJing is such a big deal right now. When the pandemic happened, I know, Sunil, I'm a pretty extroverted person. I am loud and proud. I like to just walk up to strangers and say hi and talk to them. I am a big slobbery goth St. Bernard, just running around, to everybody. And when the pandemic hit, it hit me hard, especially that first year where, I'm 44 now, so it's not like I'm going out to the bar or club all the time or, things like that. But a while in, it really hit me. I do not get this energy from just interacting with people, from going to, Chaos, our local goth club or anything. And I felt really cut off. And one of the few ways that I still got a chance to feel that energy and that connection was going in the chat of various Twitch streams of DJs, or like you said, a radio program like yours or something, where you might not be out on the floor with 150 people, but you still in some ways get to talk music, even if it's just typing away, to feel like you have that connection. And I realized how important that was to me and how much I was missing it, and it was hurting me. And that's why I have such an appreciation and love for what you DJs do, because honestly, that first year in particular, it saved me. Live stream, because they do live band streaming performances on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and things like that too. But if it wasn't for that or the DJs, honestly, I would have lost my shit. It was tough.
Yeah.
And so we had kind of a similar experience at the radio station too, where the pandemic hit and we locked the station down. We went to automation for a long time. We weren't in the radio station for a few weeks while we were trying to figure this thing out. And then someone had the bright idea to let us pre-record our shows, and we could try to broadcast them, at a separate time. And that worked out great because it got some of us back into doing radio again, but some of us, kind of lost touch with it because we really loved being in the studio. And, pre-recording is one thing. It's great that we can keep the show going, but it's just kind of a different vibe. It really isn't. You're not there in the studio. DJ Sunil and I are not in the same room together, kind of feeding off each other's energy. There's a delay when you're doing these video recordings,
sound levels and getting all that stuff to be clean.
I feel that when we do the interviews for Sounds and Chat, now, Katie's in a different place than I am when we're doing or Colin, a lot of those early ones, we did them together in the studio together. And yeah, I missed that, but we got back
to the studio in September of last year, August or September of last year. And
it was like we started over.
Well, almost. It was like falling off a bike, right? You
Yeah.
don't forget how to do that. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, first thing we did was mess up.
Yep.
Because
Big
it's
time.
live radio, and that's what
Big
we
time.
did.
And it was great. And you know what? That felt good. That was the best flub. That's the best feeling flub that we had ever made, simply because
it felt like old times.
I mean, it was like the first time we'd been on the air in almost 18 months.
I think I hit
live.
play and nothing happened.
It was great.
What
it was great. It reminded us of what live radio was about, and that felt good. Yeah.
All right. So I want to get into this because this is extremely important. You guys have a big event coming up that, in order to, like you said, this is a nonprofit to keep this going and keep this lifeblood in the scene through the radio station. And a couple times a year, you guys do special events to help keep the ball rolling and keep funding happening. And you have a huge one coming up on Saturday. Break it down for me and tell me why this is important and how people can see it and be a part.
Sure. Well, Co-op Radio is a non-commercial community radio station. We're a nonprofit radio station. We're on the non-commercial end of the dial, so we don't get advertising. We don't sell advertising. But what we do is invite people to join our cooperative, right? Like I said, it's a cooperative. When you join, you get a voting right. So you get to choose, you get to vote for our board of directors. We have a community council, which serves as
You
the
and
station's...
Paul Barker could be voting together.
Exactly, right. Yeah. So you can vote in our elections and you become a member. So what we try to do twice a year is have a membership drive. So we're trying to invite people to come and join this experiment in community radio that we've done. What DJ Sunil and I have started to do, at least in the last 10 years or so, is, DJ Sunil is a DJ, is a professional club DJ, has the connections at the club. So we started to try to do at least once a year, but now we're going to try to do it a little bit more often, a nice Darkest Before Dawn benefit for Co-op Radio. The last one we did was March 7th, 2020, 1 week prior to everything locking down, and it was cold, it was rainy, and also people were scared to death and nobody came out. But we had a great time. We had a couple of bands join us.
We had Provision out of Houston,
right.
And Lucid Dementia from here in Austin.
Oh yeah, and they were fun. And great sports. They're huge supporters of the radio. We've had them on a few times. But yeah, it's something we like to do. And this Saturday, the 26th of February, we're going to be at Elysium with another great benefit. This time we've got AI from Austin. Mm-hmm. And then we will have Unit Code Machine.
No,
I'm sorry. No,
Spank the Nun.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. Let me start.
It's the other Dallas band.
That's right. The other Eric from Dallas. Okay.
Great. Both are great, but
yeah. No. So this Saturday, the 26th, we have AI from Austin, and then we also have Spank the Nun from Dallas, who will be joining us. And then we have a special guest DJ set. DJ Sunil, who was that? That's coming.
We have DJ Owen from the Hanging Garden radio show out in San Francisco.
Oh, I love that show. Very cool.
He's going on tour he's doing a DJ tour, and he just happens to. I was actually chatting with him. I saw that he had this Saturday night off. Yeah, on his tour. And I'm like, hey, do you want to come out and hang out with us? And he's like, I would love that.
That's awesome.
He loves Austin. And I'm so looking forward. I've actually been on his show, interviewed on his show a couple of times. And I always make sure to bring some Texas music with me when I go. But this is the first time I'm actually we're going to get to meet in real life. And it's going to be great. So he's going to be there as well, doing a special DJ set after the bands are done. And
we're really looking forward to it. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. But if you're interested in donating to the cause at Co-op Radio, you can find us at koop.org. We've got a donate button that you can click on there. And then in the comments section, tell them you love Darkest Before Dawn. We'd love to hear from you.
I will make sure when we post this that we'll have those links so that people can get in there and do that link. Right before we go, I always like to do, and because I got two DJ experts with their finger on the pulse.
Where?
Yeah, right here. Right here.
Okay.
We're a music review page, first and foremost, at Sounds and Shadows. That's what we do. And so I always like to hear, usually when I have a band on, an artist, what are you listening to that's inspiring you right now? So why don't you both give me two things that you're stoked about right now, whether it's an album or a single or a band or whatever in the modern scene that is pumping your gears.
Well, the first band is going to be easy for both of us.
Yeah, actors. Actors is
Actors. It's all
Actors
caps.
just
It's
about
all
to
caps.
go
It's all
on
caps.
tour. Very,
Yeah.
very exciting.
Can't wait for them to be in
bass
Austin.
Player. They had some trouble around because of the pandemic the last time they were set to tour. So yes, they're out on the road. I'm geeked. I'll be there in Detroit, maybe even Chicago.
We'll be at the Austin show. Should
possibly
be,
even DJing that show.
Yes. Yeah. But we actually funny we mentioned actors. One of DJ V's birthday presents last year was one of Shannon's pedal prints.
Oh, very good. I remember I saw that online.
Yeah.
So we had Shannon on the podcast, and she was talking about her pedal prints and her tattoos and things like that when she was promoting for Leathers. So
really beautiful work, and I love. That's one of my favorite prints that I have. So
we actually got the chance to interview them in, was it April last year?
Yeah, it was.
It was definitely before the album came out. It was about a month before the album came out.
It was August.
August. Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
so
it was August.
But it was Sounds and Shadows in any way, shape, or form. You hear me talk about the actors.
No, and
I want you to.
I have to say, I have to say thank you to you for reintroducing me to actors.
Oh, okay. I'll take
because
that.
It had been a while since I had heard their stuff, like the early stuff, and then I hadn't heard anything for a while, and it was like one of those bands that kind of fell up, and then you just started talking about them all the time. But yeah, we got to interview them. I messaged Jason. I'm like, hey, would you be up for an interview? He's like, hold on, let me see if I can get the entire band together, which was rare, apparently. Like it's rare to get the entire band. And we got everybody, and it was great. So we had all four of them sitting at Jackknife Sounds, and we got to hang out and chat with them for a bunch, and that was pretty awesome.
They're really good people. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing. For as great a band as they are just some of the most open, easygoing, chill,
super nice.
Just really, I mean, to everybody at every show all the time.
Well, and it sounds and it looks like they're having a good time too, and that really comes out in the music. And I think that's important too. If you're having a great time, and why wouldn't you? I mean, you're in a band. It's a beautiful thing. You get to play music for a living, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, as long as you sound like you're having a good time, I think that goes a long way.
All right, so I'm going to give you that one as a layup.
Okay, that was easy. All
but
right.
now, do you have something that especially if it's a Texas one that you want to shout out? What's a band that people need to know about that maybe they don't?
Well, I mean, like a lot of people already know a lot of a lot of like Twin Tribes or Spank the Nun or Rose Garden Funeral Party or or Death Loves Veronica. There's so many good bands. I mean, I really can't pick just one. That's my problem. And I mean, you're a reviewer. You know how it is. You can't just pick one.
Yeah.
And I can't even just pick a label. I mean, whether it's Negative Gain or Cold Transmission or Remission or Distortion Productions or there's just like I can't really pick. But when we were putting together our top albums of last
my gosh. I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Last year when we were working, we ended up doing separate shows. We did our favorite cover versions. We did of 2021. We did our favorite
singles.
We did our favorite album.
Is Amaranth on that? Do I have to give you crap right now? What? Huh?
Well, Amaranth, we couldn't play Amaranth on the radio.
Oh, that's true.
Because the only song you put out was not radio friendly.
You mean just because I screamed "fuckboy" like 36 times?
That is correct.
Right. Yeah. At some point, the FCC draws the line.
Yeah, after like halfway through the first one.
Coming.
Yeah.
But
well, just to piggyback on what DJ Sunil is saying, I think we narrowed down our favorite albums of 2021 to 40. Like we couldn't narrow it down any further than that because there's just so much incredible music. I think, I'm going to say a hot take and I have a very unpopular opinion, but I think the pandemic has been good for a lot of things, particularly artistic output. For sure. 2020 and 2021 were just
ridiculous
with
such good music, and it's really hard to narrow it down.
You guys didn't say that I'm really into right now. Weird Wolves.
Oh yeah.
Weird Wolves. Yeah.
Weird Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, they were interviewed on another show on Co-op a couple of weeks ago with DJ Video Femme, who is potentially going to be joining Darkest Before Dawn.
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully,
yes. We'll make sure and reach out to her.
Video Femme is part of we have another show called Austin Artists, and she interviewed Raphael and Ava.
And it was a great interview too. And yeah, I look forward to hearing more from them. But yeah, they're really good.
Very cool sound.
We mentioned AI earlier. They're going to be playing at our benefit. I just discovered them, DJ Sunil.
I just discovered them too. I was introduced to them.
Tell me a little bit about them and their sound.
Well, we actually don't know. They're a synthwave band from here in Austin. They, from what I've heard, they're actually pretty good. They do a really interesting cover of Madonna's "Borderline,"
which is really fun.
My favorite Madonna song.
Yeah.
So
I'll send you a link. Send you a link.
Send that to me. I got to hear that.
They sound pretty fun. And then we figured we'll go from synthwave to Eric. and Spank the Nun. So Eric is going to drive down from Dallas. His brother is flying in from California.
Nice.
And they're gonna hit the stage. And
Eric always brings the loud and nasty.
Oh, he is. Yeah, it's so much fun to watch.
I love
them. Yeah, whether it's his live streams or live in person. If you get the chance to see them live, they're loud. They're loud.
All right. So Saturday coming up here at Elysium,
right?
And plus go to the link and support radio that's actually supporting our dark scene. Thank you so much, both of you, for being on the show today.
Oh gosh, thanks for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate and love you guys and everybody out there in internet land. Keep it dark, yeah.